So, I finished Arcane Season 2. I am disappointed. Instead of taking the time to break down each episode, I figured I'd take a page out of Season 2's book and speedrun my thoughts on Season 2. I'm gonna have myself a good old-fashioned rant, because I really want to get this off my chest. And I need to say this first in order to account for some losers on the internet who would accuse me of going into Season 2 to hate it, and this is all for riding some hate train that I'm pretty sure doesn't even exist for it. Basically, the typical stuff people try to say to invalidate somebody's opinion. It's the opposite with me. I was excited for Season 2 because I adored Season 1. It was fantastic. It was the video game adaptation to beat. I put it above all the other ones that came before it. I'd even go so far as to say it was better than a lot of my favorite shows that aren't even adaptations. So don't be that weirdo. Just listen to what is being said before you start assuming the worst in someone. So, what exactly is the problem with Season 2? A TLDR answer would be that Season 1 exists, but why don't I start off by asking a question? What the hell happened to Vi? If there is one thing I liked the most about Vi from Season 1 is that she is a fighter. She is someone who will be strong for the people she cares for. She has that big sister energy about her, and I like it. She wouldn't give up on anything so easily, especially life itself. So why the hell did that happen in Season 2 over a breakup with her GF? What the hell do you mean? Her father figure, along with Milo and Clagger, were accidentally killed by her own sister. Enraged, she hit her and was kidnapped shortly after, then sent to prison. For years she had to live with those events, isolated from everyone she knows, yet she never gave up on her sister or Zahn, which is why it's crazy to me that she would ever agree to gassing her own people as a enforcer in Act 1 of Season 2. Becoming an enforcer for the purpose of hunting Jinx, I can understand, since the purpose of Season 1 for Vi was understanding Powder is gone. Jinx is someone who has killed so many people. Powder embraced that side of her and plunged Zahn and Piltover into chaos. Jinx needs to be stopped. She needs to be killed. How the hell this led to Vi agreeing to pull a Hitler with Kate and cast her own people it's beyond me. And then after refusing to kill Jinx thanks to a plot device, this led to her GF smacking her in the gut and breaking up. You'd expect Vi to be enraged at what Kate just did. Maybe go after her and talk it out. I wanted to say convince her to stop gassing Zahn. A bit late on that one, so I guess we'll just ignore it when we shouldn't. But I've heard people say, you must consider the emotional state of these people. Okay, fine. Take the day off. Take the week off, but these conversations need to happen between these characters, except they don't. Vi just gave up. She chose to get shit-faced drunk and just waste away in a fighting pit. What are you talking about? Like, there ain't no way a breakup was more emotionally damaging than everything else that's happened to her. Like, no, I don't believe it. She didn't care to talk to Kate or other enforcers in Piltover who we're told respect her a lot. Like, apparently Vi has a renewed interest in not killing Jinx thanks to this plot device, so why didn't she continue looking for Jinx? She didn't care to help reconstruct Zahn due to Silco's death. She didn't care to go find Echo, who has disappeared. Echo being gone is not an excuse to not look for him or go to the Firelights to see what they're up to. Who the hell are you? This isn't Vi. Telling me Vi is sad because people keep changing in her life is not an excuse for her to not do any of the things I just listed, or at least try. It's around Act 2 where I just lost interest in Vi as a character. They speedran multiple arcs in less than half a season. Like, now here she is following Jinx around and her plot device on a fun adventure, getting into cat fights. This should not be happening with these two so easily. Jinx killed a lot of people.
Greatest thing we can do in life is find the power to forgive.
Piltover was about to grant Zahn its independence and she ruined it. She killed Caitlyn's mom. There is plenty for them to talk about. Plenty of reasons for Vi to not outright follow her into a tunnel to find Vander, someone she knows for sure is dead. It doesn't get much better for Vi after this. She goes through several mood swings. She lost any agency and she just goes with the flow of other characters. Why should I continue to be invested in a character that changes on a whim so quickly with very little little effort to get to these points in her character. I'm just done. I'm done with Vi. Which leads me to Jinx, a character who should be severely damaged in many different ways by the events of season 1. Someone who was torn between her past self and the person she is now. A person who has killed many people in service of Silco and often enjoyed doing so. She killed her father figure not once but twice, and in the end bitterly accepted who she is. A Jinx. Her own sister rejected her. Jinx has no one in her life who cares for her. Jinx should be a wreck. So why in the world are we trying to make her into the hero of Zon in Act 2? Must I remind you once again, because it feels like the show forgot. She is a psycho killer.
Greatest thing we can do in life is find the power to forgive.
What could possibly have caused Jinx to go from somebody who chose to sit in a chair with her accepted name in tears to a fun, quirky character who does fun things now, along with throwing out Marvel-level quips?
Ha! It's me, your vile villainess, the author of your nightmares, the dread of
Who are you?
Oh, I see. A little kid fell on top of her. I wish I was joking. That's all it took. This kid follows her around after Jinx unfortunately saves its life, and it gets between a fight with Vi and Jinx in episode 3. After that, you're just expected to believe these two are close. A single kid has washed away years of trauma and murder. And now, in Act 2, the people of Zon want Jinx to be their savior.
As Zonites.
Where is she?
It's absurd. It's absolutely absurd how we got here. Why the hell does Zon want Jinx to be their messiah? She worked for Silco. Not everyone in Zon likes Silco, including some of his own co-workers.
Greatest thing we can do in life is find the power to forgive.
Why Jinx and not the Firelights, the people who stood against Silco, who fought for a more free, unoppressed Zon? Free from Shimmer, the thing that you could argue is what ruined Zon the most.
Silco flooded the lanes with Shimmer. He didn't care what it did to people. Everyone here was an addict or a victim.
The only thing I can think of is that, I don't know, Jinx blew up the Grey, the thing that Caitlyn was using to gas Zon. But there are so many other things at work here that I don't believe that's enough. There is just so much material to unpack, and it wasn't even close to being unpacked. I can't accept that this is the person Zon wants to rally behind. I can't accept that this is who Jinx is now. How did we get here so fast? Oh right, a kid fell on top of Jinx, and somehow Jinx is... Somehow Jinx is in a much better state emotionally than Vi. Somehow this is where we are. Listen, I don't know who this person is either. This is Harley Quinn, not Jinx. I also hate that they forced in this stupid kid and they don't even develop their relationship until the very end. Oh, the adorable kid is gonna kill herself to save Jinx. Isn't that so sad? No. Who is this kid again? Oh, here's a music video right before she dies to let you know these two are super close. Piss off. It's absolutely lazy and phoned in. I hate this kid. And this all leads to Jinx to be an emotional wreck she should have been at the start of the season, but they couldn't even commit to that for very long because Echo has a talk with her off screen, and then she's back to fun, redeemed Jinx.
Greatest thing we can do in life is find the power to forgive.
Insane. Insanity. You've ruined Jinx. Man, I mean, I guess I can talk about the GF. I'm talking about Caitlyn. I don't understand what they were trying to do with her. In season 1, she spent a lot of time with Vi and Zon. She understood how messed up that place was due to the Shimmer and Silco. She saw the Firelights, the good parts of Zon. She understood that not all of the people of Zon are bad, yet she decides they are, calling them animals, and decides to gas them.
A memorial? What kind of animals?
Right. Listen, I get that her mother died and it's rough out there for her. Trust me, I get it. Losing a loved one is tough. It makes you do things that a normal person probably wouldn't do. But that was Jinx who did that, and she knows that. She even told the council it was only Jinx who did that. The people who attacked her during a memorial in episode 1, it was a Chem Baron who was there because of Jace, who killed her son.
For my son!
Jace doesn't tell anyone for some reason, including Caitlyn, but we'll talk about Jace later. Correct me if I'm wrong, but wasn't Caitlyn a detective? Shouldn't she be figuring out why this happened instead of just assuming the worst, that this is all of Zahn and that we need to start gassing them? It's a bit strange because this is all for the purpose of finding Jinx at the same time, but then it's like, why are you gassing Zahn? What? Like, this is really important because later on she becomes the dictator of Piltover. Don't ask me how that happens. The writers don't care about the government body in Piltover anymore. They let a foreign entity take control of Piltover and name Caitlyn as the monarch of all of Piltover as opposed to somebody else, sure. Who gives a shit about re-elections or temporary council members in the event they should be killed? We're too busy. We got things to do, alright? But Caitlyn goes out of her way to oppress the people of Zahn until she finds Jinx. And the reason she does that is because Zahn wants Jinx to be their leader. I already said why that's stupid, which in turn makes Caitlyn's action stupid, that she would declare martial law and oppress the people of Zahn. And I guess Vi is just okay with that, too busy getting drunk and her face caved in. I don't understand how or why, but we have skipped multiple arcs. I mean, it was cool seeing Mbessa become like a mentor for Caitlyn, but later on, she becomes good again because she met Vi again, and Vi tells her about Warwick being her dad. There's a lot of conversations to be had here, especially since Vi is with Jinx, but why bother? Why bother? There were so many things that should have happened, yet we rushed through all of it. Caitlyn is once again a good person and eventually goes down on Vi. I don't care.
Greatest thing we can do in life is find the power to forgive.
In case you haven't figured out the major problem with Season 2, we're speedrunning through so much material that should have had more time to be fleshed out. Material that should have had multiple seasons. Act 1 should have been Season 2. Act 2 should have been Season 3. Act 3 Act 3 is a bit of... I don't know if you should even have done Act 3, but if you did, then give it at least 2 seasons. But because they consolidated all these acts into one season with only 9 episodes, using mostly a bunch of music videos to explain things in a minute or two, it makes the payoffs feel extremely unsatisfying to where it's difficult for me to give a shit about what happens next. On top of it barely making any sense. Vi and Jinx were the main characters for Arcane and they've been thoroughly ruined for the sake of expediency. Unfortunately, it doesn't stop there because Silco didn't survive being damaged as well. Silco is one of my top favorite villains in media. I can't believe they thought it was a good idea to retcon Season 1 by having Silco and Vander not only know Vi and Powder's mother, or I think it's just Vi, but they promised to ensure the well-being of Zahn for the sake of herself and her children.
You two are gonna figure this Zahn thing out. You're not allowed to fail anymore. For her, for me.
No. This cannot exist because of Season 1 where Vander and Silco had no idea who these kids were. It ruins Vander a bit to where he saw these kids he had orphaned due to fighting the enforcers. He chose to stop the violence and take care of the kids, but now that feels less impactful because he was gonna do it anyway. Then we have Silco who tried to kill these kids multiple times.
Hello, little girl.
But Season 2 told me he knows the kids. Their mother died in a fight for Zahn. This is something Silco would respect. He would do everything to protect these kids, if not at least try to convert them to his side. You see the problem? This scene cannot coexist with Season 1. It doesn't make sense. What am I supposed to think here? That Silco is just an awful person? He's the villain. I know he's the bad guy, but he has principles. It's the whole reason he turned on Vander. He was absolutely disgusted with Vander's lack of resolve to continue the fight for Zahn.
You'll get people killed. For what? Pride?
For respect. We shared a vision, Vander. A dream of freedom. You die for the cause, but you won't fight for one.
And even if we pretend Silco forgot, maybe he doesn't know what the kids look like. Okay, sure, why not? Why doesn't this scene get referenced at all by Vander? Why doesn't Vander tell Silco these are the kids of that mother whose name we don't even know? Like, are you really gonna tell me he simply didn't recognize Vi or Powder when he ordered his men to kill them? This is nonsense. He had no idea who these kids were, but Season 2 is telling me he did? Bullshit.
Have you heard the rumor? Vander the coward fled town with his children. and they were never seen again.
I suppose Vander is somewhat intact. Should I talk about Warwick? The problem for me personally is that he's somewhat of a newly introduced character in Arcane. I just don't know what I was supposed to get out of him. I don't play League of Legends, but I hear he was another victim of the speedrun. In his first scene, he's getting flashbacks to who he was, and in his second scene, he is hugging Vi. He's hugging Vi and Jinx already. Apparently, he never got to be the uncaged wrath of Zahn. His look is off, and it even got worse as time went on. This guy is drawn in by blood, yet somehow isn't drawn out in the time he spends in the tunnels of Zahn. You mean to tell me not a single person bled at all while Zahn was under heavy occupation from Piltover? I especially didn't like seeing this plot device join in on the reunion hug. Like, I wish Warwick killed this creature. She's got blood on her face, please just kill her. How dare this thing inject itself into a story it doesn't belong in? It reminds me a lot of Grogu from The Mandalorian. It doesn't even speak. Hey, just like Grogu, isn't that crazy? Anyway, I don't know, it just seemed like a wolfman that barely got a chance to be fleshed out. He was just there to get Vi and Jinx to be together. It was a bit sad to see him lose the chance to regain himself, but because it was all extremely rushed, on top of all the other horrible writing choices they made up to this point, it just didn't hit me as hard. Alright, I guess it's time to talk about Jace and Victor. Man, this one is gonna be rough, but also pretty quick at the same time since they were absent for half of the season. I didn't necessarily have a problem with Jace pissing off in his lab to watch over Victor, but I do think he should have had some involvement with fixing Piltover after the council was nuked, especially whenever Victor decided to piss off. At least someone besides Mel should have approached him for counsel, like Ambessa. My biggest complaint about him, along with Victor, aside from the show not giving a shit about them disappearing, the problems I had were mostly in the final act of season 2. Victor was apparently the sage who traveled through time to give Jace what he needed for Hex Tech?
Why did you ever give me this? Why?
Yes, there is time travel and alternate universes in Arcane, and it sucks because it's convoluting the hell out of the story. Let's just stay focused on character and plot for now. After Jace goes on a journey to see an alternate reality where Piltover is consumed by the Arcane through Hextech, Victor, who for some reason just let Jace nearly die, walking over to Piltover, who tells Jace he is the key to stopping himself from going mad and ruining the world with the Arcane.
There is no prize to perfection. In all timelines, in all possibilities, only you can show me this.
Okay, again, it's hard to wrap your head around all of this because Jace could not have saved Victor in his own timeline without future Victor giving him this scene to show Victor in his mind. So I guess this was destined to happen. Jace was meant to be teleported to this place at some point in his life. Why didn't this Victor play more of a role in ensuring Jace survived and ensuring his past self didn't go crazy? Is there something I missed? Like, dude, my brain wants to kill itself right now. But here's the problem. Why did Jace blow a hole in Victor's chest? Why did he not allow Victor to see that MP4 video in his mind or talk to him about what he saw? What are we doing here? It's bad enough I have to grapple with time travel and alternate universes, two things I hate in storytelling unless it's done right. It usually isn't. It's one of the major things that killed the MCU for me, so I hope you could potentially cut me some slack for being a bit pissed about this, but I felt insulted that this reveal that Victor was the sage happens in the finale instead of episode 7 where the scene actually happens. This is the kind of lazy storytelling you'd see in The Acolyte. It's cheap. I hate it. And Victor, after getting shot in the chest by Jace, decides he needs to control all of existence. Dude, this is madness. I don't even want to waste my time thinking about what is happening. Ambessa thinks that she is okay to side with somebody like Victor and trust him to not turn against her. Like, I don't know. Like, I mean, how does Echo and Heimerdinger know recreating this anomaly in their timeline without Hextech will somehow send them back to their original reality? Like, maybe I missed something while I was trying desperately to stay invested in the story. Otherwise, I got nothing. In the words of the great Todd Howard,
all of this just works.
Like I said, or at least I think I said a bit earlier, it was around the middle of Act 2 where I was losing interest in the show, and I just sort of continued on to see it through with the hope that Act 3 would fix at least parts of Arcane, I was coping hard, guys. You have no idea. The magic and technology were understandable in Season 1. In Season 2, it's too much. There's apparently witches or a cabal called the Black Rose who can just abduct anyone they want at any given time. I think their goal is to oppose Ambessa, sort of interfere with her plans to militarize Piltover to be used in her conflict in Noxus. Just how powerful are the Black Rose, and why don't they use their powers more often? Don't know. It's why I avoided talking about Mel's story, because I just can't wrap my head around it all. But to bring this back to Jace and Victor, I really love these two in Season 1. I have a soft spot for egghead characters. They are my science boys, and I did maybe perhaps shed one single tear to see them come back together in the finale, but they were still a letdown to me in Season 2. I'm not sure if I'd consider them ruined. I just don't know what they were thinking with Act 3. I didn't even like Victor's new look in the finale. I thought he was going to be a robot man instead of some slender looking alien. I mean, at least Jace looked nice. I liked his beard. Should I start talking about things I liked for a bit? Try to balance out the hate with some positivity. I like Silo. I like the cat lady. Was hoping they would do more with them, but no. I like Singed. Not sure why he chose to let himself get captured instead of reaching out to someone in Noxus who would be interested in his work, but he had a lot of cool lines. I'd say he came out of this show mostly intact as a character. Ambessa was mostly okay. It was weird that she allowed that Chem Baron to attack the memorial in Piltover. I understand she wanted to use that as a way to get Jace and Piltover to use Hex Tech in its fight against Zahn in order to further militarize them so they could be a more efficient asset to Noxus. But man, Jace nearly dying in that attack, why didn't she station some guards near him? He and Victor made Hex Tech, and she did not ensure his protection. What's that about? Speaking of Victor, why didn't Ambessa try and look for him, since he is one of the only people who didn't disappear? Like, there's a few L's for Ambessa's character as far as I'm concerned. She also should not have survived her encounter with Warwick, or at least like just with a scratch on her mask. I hate that they cut away from that scene, leaving you only to speculate on what happened, because whoever wrote that scene knew she should have been dead, but they just ignored it. This happens a lot in this season. I miss being able to see fights and scenes play out from start to finish. That's what Season 1 was mostly good about, but in Season 2, there are so many cuts between fights and scenes. I felt like I was watching a PowerPoint or someone showing off the pictures they took in photo mode, like it's a video game. Why is there so much slow-mo? Like, the fights in Season 1 were way better. Everyone has a spine made of vibranium and rely on convenience to keep certain characters alive. Sorry, I'll go back to talking about things I liked. You know what? I liked Echo. It's a damn shame he barely had any screen time, but that could potentially be seen as a good thing. I sort of liked when they slowed down and dedicated an entire episode with him. It almost made me say episode 7 was the best episode in Season 2, but the dialogue choices were a bit strange though. This dude goes to a memorial for Vi and he's like, "Was it you?" Looks at Powder.
Was it you?
Dude, what is your problem? I understand it's strange to see Powder as not Jinx, but surely he had enough time to adjust to this current timeline to not say such a thing. I didn't really like how he chose to talk Jinx out of killing herself. You know, the person who most likely killed a lot of his friends.
Greatest thing we can do in life is find the power to forgive.
I don't want to talk about dialogue extensively in this video because I'd be here for another 30 minutes or so, and I'm trying to keep this under 30 minutes. But you know what? I liked how they utilized his 4-second rewind ability. Don't get me wrong, it was cool to see Jace walk around in a ruined Piltover, but the introduction of time travel and alternate universes, especially that twist at the end with the finale, nah, I couldn't pick an episode I liked overall compared to the others. It's probably the one where Ambessa's second in command died, and she held a little funeral for him. She was sad. And you know what? I was sad too. I liked Rictus. He did his job well. I was sad when he died. But I guess the show's biggest strength is its visuals and presentation, which I think is what is distracting people the most. They'll see Jace walking around with a braced leg saying, "Dude, it's a parallel to Victor." That is so good. He understands Victor much better now. Even though Victor was like that because he basically had cancer. Jace broke his leg leg and would have most likely gotten better. What do you mean this is a parallel to Victor and Jace now understands Victor more? He didn't need to understand Victor more. They were best friends who built Hextech together. This is meaningless. Just like Vi slapping the plot device was not a meaningful parallel. It's nothing close to when Vi hit Powder. This creature bit Vi's arm and she slapped her, as Vi absolutely should. Who the fuck is this stupid kid? And don't even dare try to tell me that the parallel of Jinx and the plot device is that of Silco and Jinx. Those two were much better explored in season 1. Jinx could express a meaningful level of individuality. It didn't turn Silco into a good guy, but it changed his perspective a bit, now having a daughter to care for in his life. This little shit is more akin to a pet that they barely did anything with besides look cute to fool the audience. Which brings me back to my original point. Do not let these things fool you. Do not let the visuals, which look, they do look nice, just to be clear. It looks like a moving oil painting. I love it. But don't let it distract you from how flawed and rushed the season is. It distracted me for a bit. I had to sit down and take a week to process my thoughts on the whole show. I think it's why you'll see a lot of people rate this season really high, and I mean much higher than season 1, which is insane to me. I disagree heavily with this verdict, obviously, but whatever, man. If you think this is all the problems season 2 had, you are gravely mistaken. There's way more problems that I chose to not go over because I wanted to focus on the bigger fish, and don't you dare accuse me of lying about that. Do I need to talk about how funny it was that when Caitlyn decides to put together a team to hunt Jinx? This is the team. Fishman, random lady we knew for a minute, and this is treated like a badass moment. That guy was drunk on the street. Who the hell are these people? Why are there no veteran enforcers? Why does the world feel so small in season 2 compared to season 1? Why didn't they do anything with the fact that Jinx killed Silco? No one talks about it. Not Vi, Kate, or even Smeech, who found out when fighting Jinx. Oh, side note, Smeech was pretty cool. I liked him. I liked his design. He had a chance to tell Savika that, you know, Jinx killed Silco. She would probably care a lot about that, but he didn't. That never happened. Savika's role was severely diminished this season despite being Silco's second in command. It's pretty lame. Do we gotta talk about how they turned Heimerdinger into a goofball instead of keeping him as the guy who tried to caution everyone about the use of Hextech, but for some reason doesn't freak out about Victor, doesn't advocate for finding him despite knowing his condition or that he was tempering with a corrupted hex core? Listen, don't tempt me to go even further with my criticisms of Arcane Season 2. I really wanted to like Season 2 after coming off of Season 1 because it was so good. It pains me to be this harsh to it when I wanted to love it. I'd even say my love for Season 1 is making me hold back because half of me wants to say Season 2 is not bad. It's not like the worst television I've ever seen, but the other half of me is extremely disappointed. I am torn between two different sides. I don't know which voice I should listen to. Anyway, look, I don't know what to tell you. Those are my big reasons for not liking Season 2. I was let down by it. Maybe someone can try and convince me I'm wrong, but I've given my best answers as to why I feel this way. I wasn't expecting the show to be a masterpiece, but I was expecting to be close to, if not as good as Season 1. Alright, I'm done for now. You'll most likely never hear me talk about this again, unless, I don't know, maybe you ask me about it when I'm streaming, or something else sets me off. Oh, I changed my mind, by the way. Episode 7 is the best episode because Echo said something that I think best describes how I felt when watching Arcane Season 2.
I feel like I woke up in the wrong universe.